He was the quiet face millions remembered, the older Hardy brother who looked calm even when danger was closing in, the Baywatch attorney who seemed made for the Malibu sun, and the kind of actor who became famous without ever looking like he was chasing fame. But behind Parker Stevenson's clean-cut image was a love story so loud, so complicated, and so painful that even 25 years after the marriage ended, one final goodbye proved something fans had almost forgotten. Some people leave your life, but they never really leave you. Before we continue, if you love real stories about fame, heartbreak, and the private lives behind public faces, make sure to subscribe. This is not just a story about two celebrities. This is the story of a quiet man, an electric woman, a marriage built on opposites, and a goodbye that carried 40 years of emotion. Long before Parker Stevenson became connected forever to Kirstie Alley, he was already a familiar face to a generation that grew up watching television heroes solve mysteries before the internet told people what was popular. In the late 1970s, he appeared as Frank Hardy in the Hardy Boys/Nancy Drew Mysteries alongside Sean Cassidy. Frank was the older brother, the steadier one, the one who looked before he jumped. And in many ways, that image followed Parker for the rest of his life. He was handsome, polished, controlled, and never desperate for attention. But even then, something about him felt slightly distant, as if the camera could capture his face, but not fully reach the man behind it. And this was only the beginning. Parker had grown up far from the wild, emotional world that would later surround him. Born in Philadelphia in 1952, he came from a background that seemed structured, disciplined, and quiet. He attended Phillips Exeter Academy, carried himself with an understated confidence, and became the kind of young actor magazines loved to place on covers. For a while, his face was everywhere. Young fans knew him from television, teen magazines, and the glossy world of 1970s celebrity culture. But especially early fame can become a strange kind of cage. It gives you attention before you fully understand who you are. And by the time the Hardy Boys ended after 3 seasons, Parker was no longer just a rising actor. He was a man trying to figure out what came after being someone else's idea of a heartthrob. That is where Kirstie Alley enters the story. And the way she entered was exactly the kind of thing that made Kirstie Alley impossible to ignore. It was 1981, at a bar in Los Angeles. Parker was reportedly there with another woman. Kirstie was there with her roommate. She saw him across the room, and according to the story told over the years, she said something so direct, so dramatic, and so completely Kirstie that it sounded almost like a line written for television. She made it clear she wanted him. But Parker was not alone. And this is where the real story started. Kirstie did not move through the world quietly. She had the kind of presence that made people look twice. The kind of personality that filled silence before anyone asked her to speak. Parker, by contrast, was reserved. He once described himself as someone who simply tended to be in the room. She was fire. He was still water. She walked toward life with speed. He observed it with caution. But sometimes the most dangerous attraction is not between two similar people. Sometimes it begins when one person carries exactly what the other person feels they have lost. Parker would later describe meeting Kirstie as a turning point. At that time, he had reportedly felt tired of the teen idol version of himself. He was unsure where his career was going and unsure how to reconnect with the joy that had once made acting feel exciting. Kirstie had that joy. She had conviction. She had energy. She believed in the room she was standing in, the work she was chasing, and the future she could build. For Parker, being near her felt like standing close to a flame after a long season of cold. But what felt thrilling in the beginning would later become much more complicated. They dated for 2 years before marrying on December 22, 1983. On paper, they were not an obvious match. In fact, they were almost a warning sign disguised as romance. Kirstie was outspoken, intense, bold, and unpredictable. Parker was controlled, calm, and private. Their religions were different. Their habits were different. Their personalities seemed built from opposite material. Parker would later say that they were exact opposites, and that was what made the relationship interesting. But he also admitted something even more painful. Being opposites did not make for a good marriage. Still, they tried. And that part matters, because it would be easy to look back and say the marriage was doomed from the beginning, but real life is not that simple. For 14 years, they built a life together. They shared a home, a family, careers, grief, and moments of happiness that were not fake just because the marriage eventually ended. Kirstie brought noise, animals, chaos, laughter, and intensity into Parker's quiet world. Reports over the years described their home life as large and unusual, with animals everywhere, and Kirstie constantly expanding the emotional temperature of the house. Parker may not have been built for that kind of life, but for a long time, he loved the woman who created it. Then came one of the most painful chapters of their marriage. In 1990, Kirstie suffered a miscarriage 3 months into a pregnancy. She later wrote about that loss with the kind of raw honesty that made people understand how deeply it affected her. She described the physical and emotional aftermath in a way that made clear this was not a sadness that disappeared quickly. Some grief does not end when people expect it to. Some grief stays in the body, in the house, in the silence between two people. And for Parker and Kirstie, that heartbreak became part of the marriage they were still trying to protect. But then, out of pain, their family grew. In 1992, they adopted their son, William True. In 1994, their daughter Lily joined the family. For Parker, fatherhood seemed to fit him in a way fame never fully did. The same calmness that made him seem distant as a celebrity made him appear steady as a father. Kirstie, meanwhile, was becoming bigger than ever. In 1987, she had joined Cheers as Rebecca Howe, stepping into one of the most successful sitcoms on television. That role could have crushed a less powerful performer. Instead, Kirstie made it her own. And what happened next shocked fans who had wondered whether anyone could enter that world and truly belong. Kirstie won an Emmy. She won a Golden Globe. She became one of television's most recognizable women, not by disappearing into the show, but by bringing her own strange, sharp, fearless energy into it. At the 1991 Emmy Awards, when she thanked Parker in a way only Kirstie Alley would, the moment became unforgettable because it was funny, bold, and deeply personal all at once. Parker sat in the audience as his wife turned a public speech into something both shocking and affectionate. In many ways, that moment captured them perfectly. She was the lightning. He was the man watching from the quiet. But success does not always heal what is happening behind closed doors. Sometimes it makes the cracks louder. Parker kept working. Kirstie's star kept rising. Their family life continued. But the differences that had once made the relationship exciting slowly became harder to live with every day. There is a difference between being fascinated by someone's opposite nature and building a peaceful home inside it. What feels magnetic in the beginning can feel exhausting after years of pressure, career changes, parenting, grief, and expectation. And this is where the real problem started. By November 1996, after years of trying, Parker and Kirstie separated. The official reason was irreconcilable differences, the phrase celebrities often use when the truth is too layered to fit into one sentence. Later, Kirstie said there was no infidelity in the marriage on either side. She described it more as different goals in life. Parker also spoke about the split in a way that felt honest rather than polished. He did not pretend everything was easy. He did not sell the public a perfect friendship before it existed. He admitted the divorce process was painful. And that honesty made the story feel even more human. Their divorce was finalized in 1997, but the emotional ending of a marriage does not always happen on the day papers are signed. Parker later said he regretted breaking vows he had made before God, even if the separation had become necessary. That detail reveals something important about him. For Parker, the end of the marriage was not just a celebrity breakup. It was a spiritual wound, a personal failure he carried even while understanding why it had happened. He wanted Kirstie to be happy. But as he seemed to understand, love alone is not always enough to make two people right for each other. Kirstie also carried her own complicated truths. Over the years, she spoke openly about emotional attractions she had felt while married, including her well-known comments about Patrick Swayze and John Travolta. But she remained clear that she did not cross the line into betrayal. She said she believed that when you marry someone, you are supposed to work hard and make it work. That is what makes the story so painful. This was not a marriage that ended because nobody cared. It ended after two people cared, tried, failed, and finally had to admit that trying was not the same as surviving.
After the divorce, Parker continued working in television. He appeared in different projects, including Baywatch, where a new generation knew him as Craig Pomeroy. He later appeared in Greenhouse Academy on Netflix and other projects that showed he had never disappeared, even if he was not chasing the spotlight the way some actors do. His career became steady rather than explosive, and somehow that suited him. Parker Stevenson never seemed like a man who needed the room to turn toward him. He simply needed a place in it. He eventually found love again with Lisa Schoen. Their relationship was quieter, softer, and far removed from the firestorm that had defined his marriage to Kirstie. The story of Lisa reportedly winning his heart with chicken noodle soup almost sounds too gentle for Hollywood, but that is exactly why it feels right for Parker's second chapter. After years connected to one of the loudest, most electric personalities in entertainment, he found something calm. He remarried. He built a new life. But even a new life cannot erase the people who helped shape the old one. Because Parker and Kirstie shared something permanent, their children. True and Lily were the living proof that the marriage had mattered. No divorce could undo that. No years apart could make them strangers completely. They had to remain connected, because family does not end just because romance does. And then, as the years passed, their children had children of their own. Parker and Kirstie became grandparents. That may have been the most powerful continuation of their story, because grandchildren carry love forward without knowing every heartbreak that came before them. But then, everything changed. And maybe that is the real ending. Not a perfect marriage, not a fairy tale, not even a tragedy in the simple sense, but a long, complicated human story about two opposite people who found each other, built a family, lost the marriage, and still remained connected through the most important thing they ever created: their children and grandchildren. In the end, Parker Stevenson did not say goodbye like a man closing a chapter. He said goodbye like someone acknowledging that some chapters never fully close. So here is the question. Do you believe some people leave such a deep mark on our lives that even after years apart, losing them still feels like losing something that was never fully gone? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, subscribe for more emotional documentary stories about the stars we remember, the lives they lived, and the truths behind the